Aydost canım hey.
This is Cem Karaca. Born into a family of thespians in 1945, Cem Karaca was born smack dab in the middle of the rock and roll revolution. As the world reeled from the era-ending double act of the Holocaust and the atomic bomb, the globe had become much more global. With radio, records, and cinema carrying culture over with increasing ease, rock and roll was one of the earlier global phenomena of this post-war/postmodern world, and Cem Karaca, as we've said, was smack dab in the middle of it. He grew up adoring Elvis, as many of the post-war kids did. His first foray into music was, in fact, covering Elvis Presley songs with his tribute band. But Karaca was still living in Turkey. The standard expectation people had about kids had changed in the Republican era, but it was still rigid. He was to get married, which he did, and then go do his military service, which he also did. He was assigned to the 121st Gendarmerie Private Training Regiment in Antakya. There, the second-generation Istanbul thespian, for the first time in his life, met Anatolia. And here, he's singing one of its most famous poems.
Kalktı göç eyledi avşar elleri hey. Kalktı göç eyledi avşar elleri. Arar giden eller bizimdi.
The Afshar or Avshar discussed here is a Turkic subtribe originating in Central Asia. The song is a direct adaptation of a poem by the very famous 19th century Avshar bard, Dadaloğlu. Avshars were a tribe of nomads that mostly moved around southern Anatolia at the time of Dadaloğlu in the 19th century, which meant that they didn't have land, which meant that they didn't pay taxes or supply men to the Ottoman army, which was unacceptable. Starting from the mid-19th century, the Ottoman capital issued decree after decree ordering the relevant local authorities to bring these nomadic tribes into the governmental fold. Avshars, alongside other nomadic tribes, resisted.
Belimizde kılıcımız kirmani hey. Belimizde kılıcımız kirmani. Taşı deler mızrağımın temirani.
One of the major reasons that Dadaloğlu and the Avshars were able to resist for so long was because of this, the Taurus Mountains. Adorning the southern coast of Anatolia against the Mediterranean, Taurus Mountains stretch from the southwest in Antalya to the southeast in Antakya, where Karaca did his military service and where he first met Anatolia. This region is incredibly mountainous, and if you don't know your way around, you can't move very swiftly. The Avshars and Dadaloğlu knew their way around. Most of the Ottoman military didn't. So when Dadaloğlu writes and Karaca sings this next line, it's both figurative and literal.
Hakkımızda devlet etmiş fermanı. Hakkımızda devlet etmiş fermanı. Ferman padişahın kardeş dağlar bizimdir. Dağlar bizimdir. Dağlar bizimdir. Dağlar bizimdir.
This is why nations exist. Just this, nothing else. This set of words, obviously written by a man who understands that words become magic when arranged in a certain order, mean something to you, to the non-Turkish speaker, yet mean multiple things to the native Turkish speaker. When Karaca belts the defiant line, the decree belongs to the Padişah, mountains belong to us, Turkish speakers can feel what he felt when he did his military service in Antakya. Turkish speakers can feel Anatolia, the mountains, the nomads who resisted settling down for centuries, this distinct distrust of authority, this resistant beauty. The language connects Karaca with Dadaloğlu, and through Karaca, Dadaloğlu with us. So that the next time a central figure of authority asks us to do something, we might remember that the mountains belong to us. Cem Karaca, post-military service, started making music that fused the rock and roll obsession of his youth with this newfound appreciation of Anatolian folk culture. Thus, he paved the way for the greatest musical genre the young Turkish Republic produced so far, Anatolian rock. His life was turbulent after that involving an exile and a strip of his citizenship, then an amnesty and a triumphant return. He died in 2004 in the former capital of the Byzantine Empire, his powerful voice serenading the southern Anatolian mountains, ringing in everyone's ears. Because that's what language does. It connects stories of old, through storytellers of the new, to the listeners of all time. See you next time.